Good evening and welcome to the rest of the news. We have a lot of exciting things going on in America today. Is that right, Ed?
Absolutely. That's I think, a historical event in more ways than one.
Right. Okay, our special guest today is Ed Holloway, who is a retired state representative for, 12 or 15 years?
Well, it's actually 7. I went through 9 terms.
So it's 18 years?
No, it was actually 17 because I resigned to take a new appointment would have been a conflict of interest. So
Okay. Well, so a lot's going on. I told you I was in the grocery store yesterday, and someone says that was a good election. I said, yeah, we got our country back. And somebody walked up to me and says, well, you're offending me.
Yeah. Well, this is typical right now, what's going on with the liberal base in America. They cannot comprehend what's going to happen to them, and they're infuriated. But they're the same ones who are organizing all these students from high schools to universities, all these protests and the violence, the ones on the pipeline up in North Dakota. All of these things are being orchestrated by the left.
Yeah.
And not, we talk about Democrats and Republicans, but we have another group that's in the base of that. They used the Democratic Party for several decades now, and they've all but destroyed the original, what we used to call the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And they are infuriated that somebody like Donald Trump gets elected and has the potential to undo things that they had worked for decades to build and destroy the country so that they can rebuild it into a utopia that nobody really knows what the form of that would be. So it's a very delicate period of time. And this thing about hostility one way or the other, and fear and all the other things that are being propagated and disseminated by the left. There's 2 or 3 organizations, and the old Communist Party is still alive and well and is pulling strings and adding and financing. You look at all these signs that automatically just appear overnight, and all the cost of the printing and all the other things in the organizing. All of that is coming from those sources of the extreme elements of the socialist party.
Like George Soros.
George Soros and others who make money out of chaos.
A lot of money out of it. Well, now, Ed, that reminds me of something I was thinking of the other day. I want to pass this by you and see what you think. It seems like there are some people that want America to survive and be strong and prosperous and keep the Constitution and have our freedoms and one nation under God, and our rights come from our Creator and all of that. And that's one group of people that are going one direction. And then there's another group of people, like you were saying, that really they're either confused or they're trying to tear America down.
The similarity between what's going on today and what happened in old 2,500 years ago in Judea, and when they just turned their back on God, and turned all that, and then they were ultimately destroyed because of that. They did everything they could, the hedonistic lifestyle, the
idol worship, and all that,
and they actually sacrificed babies on the altar,
just
of a
like
couple
we do
of
today.
Their artificial God. That's exactly the same thing we call abortion today. So while all of that similarity is there, it's very, very true. That's one of the reasons, because our founding fathers were students of history.
Yeah.
They had looked at every civilization that had been destroyed and didn't know, and wanted to know why, and they analyzed it, and they came to the conclusion that was why they said one nation under God.
Yeah.
Everything about it was based on the Judeo-Christian concept of life. And from that base, we built the strongest, most prosperous nation ever to exist on this planet. And now we're in the process of destroying it the same way
some people are.
The ancient Judea did.
Well, now, we had a video once about Jeffress, and he said in Judea, they had kings, and some were good kings, and some were bad kings, and they just led the nation all, some in the right direction, some in the wrong directions, he said. But the thing is, they didn't get to vote for their king.
Exactly.
But we get to vote for our leaders, and so that gives us more responsibility to get the right ones.
And Benjamin Franklin said it very, very distinctly when he walked out of the Liberty Hall in Pennsylvania. And they asked, what kind of a government have you given us? He said, freedom,
a republic,
and a republic if you can keep it.
If you can keep it.
And it's the problem of having eternal vigilance and all that. We have all but destroyed our knowledge of history and the foundations and all of that, and a hedonistic society in which everything is, and the destroying of religion. They removed it, the Ten Commandments, everything. And this was the same thing that happened in Judea.
Well, what do you think about this idea that there's some people that want to follow the Constitution and have one nation under God and freedoms that come from God and all that, and the other group wants to really, they seem either so confused or they're set on trying to tear down our Constitution, our economy, and of course then there's another group in the middle that doesn't really seem to know what's going on.
This was another thing that people don't realize about the American Revolution. 1/3 of the patriots, 1/3 of the population were patriots that wanted it. 1/3 was in favor of keeping the British rule and all that. And then 1/3, as you were saying, I could care less either way.
They don't.
All of those things have happened, but in the process, in the formation of the country, it created an atmosphere. And you think about the people that moved west.
Yeah.
They moved into Kentucky, into Tennessee, and other areas.
Yeah.
They didn't have a home. They had to build one. They didn't have food. They had to grow crops and all the rest of them. They didn't have everything else. So the family and the religion and separation was necessary. And they were able to survive and prosper and build America into the greatest country on earth.
Right,
and while we're talking about all the negative things that are going on, the election of Trump and his contract with the American public is a very important thing to turn some of this stuff around and rebuild and restructure America. He's making appointments to the various cabinet positions and others, and he has surrounded himself with an extremely diverse group of people. All of those individuals have tremendous abilities and things that they can bring to the government that haven't been existing for a long, long time. And I think once he puts that in place, and when he goes through his contract for the first 100 days of his administration, is going to be a turning point in the lifestyle of all Americans, and and there's always been this thing about the elites on the East Coast and the West Coast, and what they call it flying over the unknown area. That's Middle America. Well, Middle America rose up this time for the first time and showed the elites what's really
the working people.
What's really important.
The working people decided that they'd had enough, and rose up and voted for Trump in record numbers.
Right. Well, this is what is encouraging to me about what I've seen from what coming Trump in his first 100 days. The things like 6 measures to clean up the corruption and special interests in Washington.
Yes.
This is a major area where government officials and all that become lobbyists and all the other things. There's a never-ending cycle. And all the money that comes from the elites and the special groups that have a vested interest in protecting their own cash flow, he's going to turn that upside down. He's going to prohibit the hiring freeze on all these people. But one of the things that I think is a hiring freeze on the federal government on anything new and let attrition start bringing it down.
Yeah.
We now have close to 3 million government employees that make a tremendous amount of money. They don't contribute anything to the growth of anything. They're consumers of our tax dollars, not manufacturers of another income. So all of those things, and they're prohibiting the lobbyists and others, and a 5-year ban on congressional others from lobbying for another country, and a lifetime ban on White House officials lobbying for another country. Other actions in behalf of the working men and women of America is going to be tremendous jobs. So again, the pointing of these secretaries and others, and you can't write a new regulation unless you eliminate 2 others.
Yeah, that's
all
good.
All of these things to me, is like how almost like he's come up with an ability to unscramble an egg.
A breath of fresh air.
It really is. And congressional people right now are in somewhat of a turmoil because they don't know how to affect them and their ability for re-election. So they have to get their self together and pull their self together and decide what's really important.
Now, here this is from the Heritage Foundation newsletter called the Sentinel Hub. And it says, a week after resounding election of President who campaigned to drain the swamp and end cronyism in Washington, D.C., says Republicans in Congress attempted to lift the 6-year ban on earmarks behind closed doors.
Exactly. And this is the way it is.
That's kind of what you were saying, but it's not just Democrats. The Republicans are doing it too.
Exactly. And it's the same thing. It comes in these appropriation bills where they put all the feather bedding and all the rest of the things in the little project, including one congressman who put in $3,000 to have a portrait of his father made.
Was that a Democrat or a Republican?
That happened to be a Democrat.
Oh,
all things. So.
Well, now, this newsletter has some good things in it. It says that the First Amendment Defense Act, which would give you freedom of religion and things like that, freedom of speech, they are trying to pass that, and there's a lot of funny business going on. They won't pass it, and they're blaming each other and all kinds of things, but we need that passed. So this Heritage Foundation suggested, or at least this one person said that we ought to try to write letters to Congressman Massey from Northern Kentucky and get him to push ahead and be the leader to get the rest of Congress to go ahead and pass this.
To wake them up.
Wake them up.
Well, this is where strong leaders, both in Congress and in the administration with the appointments that he's about to make, all of these various cabinet positions and other locations. The President of the United States has the ability to appoint up to 4,000 people in government.
Wow.
And at the same time, this is a critical thing because most of those we don't know as the general public who they are and what their responsibilities are. But he has surrounded himself with the kind of people that puts the Constitution, the America we know and loved, first and foremost, at no expense of whatever else it may hurt in terms of the cash flow that's going into campaigns and others from special interest groups.
Well, now, we have around 6,000 people on our email program, and we would like to put out an email to all those 6,000 people, and it would have a box on there. All you have to do is click on the box, and it'll send a letter to your congressman, U.S. congressman, and your U.S. senator, and to hopefully Congressman Massey, too.
Right.
And it will also have something in there about the budget. We want a short-term budget so that when Trump is in there, we can have a better budget afterwards. And all of these things about girls being drafted and all of these, we would like you to call us right now and give us your email address. Or, if you don't have an email address, maybe your children or grandchildren have an email address, and we'll send you this email, and it'll come from Kentuckians for Freedom or somebody, and you just click on the box, and it'll send the message right up to Washington. This is such a critical time. We need to flood Washington with letters and calls and emails. Now, if you don't have an email address, here's the phone number. It's 202-224-3121. And you can call that number and ask for Congressman Massey and tell him that we're backing him with 100% with him and to go ahead and push this First Amendment Defense Act. And tell him to not pass a long-term budget until after Trump is in there.
Exactly.
And also knock out the women in the draft, the Russell Amendment. There are a lot of things that we will explain and send you up there, but we'd like your email address. Now, if you call us right now at 893-2444 and give us your email address, we're going to send you this DVD for free. And this is a tremendous DVD, Mayafa 21. It's about how the government has been trying to really destroy the black race or the black people for many, many years. And it's not just the Democrats, but some of the Republican administrations have also pushed this and given money to Planned Parenthood, which is dedicated. Margaret Sanger and Planned Parenthood are dedicated to wiping out the black race. And this explains it all and gives names and everything. So if you call us right now, 893-2444, we'll send you a free copy of this DVD. And also, we would like your email address so that we can keep you up to date minute by minute to what's going on in Washington and in Frankfurt. And with this program, you just click on a little Take Action button, and it'll send a letter for you right to your congressman, your U.S. congressman, your U.S. senator, your state legislator, and your state senator. And it's just, boom, you can do that. And we need to hear from you right now. 893-2444. You can call right now. And if nobody is there, you can leave your information on the answering machine.
Exactly. But one of the other things, as long as you got your pencil out,
yeah,
that you need to look at is that's DonaldTrump.com/contract.
Oh, yeah.
DonaldTrump.com contract.
Is this it? Is that it?
And this will give you the contract that he has with all of the things he plans to do in the first 100 days.
Oh, yeah. First, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth.
That was the various categories. And one of the things that are, as well as not only education and all the other things that were going on, but public safety.
Yeah.
Right now, the assassination of policemen around the country, all of these things are happening. And the breakdown in the so-called cities that are praying, all of those things that he is attacking, and will eventually be able to turn those things around in the first 100 days. So the first 100 days, you want to know what he plans and how it'll affect you, go to DonaldTrump.com contract, and that'll give you a copy of that contract.
Or if you mention it, we could send it to him, because we have that.
Right.
And we will send it to you in the mail. Yeah, this is only 2 pages long, and it can really give you an idea of what is happening and why it's happening. So just call that.
There's so many things that is going on that's extremely important. In fact, for example, the military is at the lowest stage of readiness since before World War II. The destroying of everything and the breaking down, the cutting back of information. Air Force has got half its aircraft that can't even get in the air because of shortage of parts. All of these things that have been going on, it's just unbelievable. And he is appointing some people to the military that will turn things around and bring it back to where it should be.
Is that in here too? The military?
Well, he tells about it in terms of safety and all that.
Oh, okay, okay, good.
And of the offshore acts and some of the other trade agreements.
Yeah, so that they can
but
make
in
more
the same
energy.
time between the election and the swearing in of Donald Trump, the current administration is going to be doing a lot of things that will either further compact the problems, or they're making a deal right now with Iran to strengthen that contract that's been violated by Iran time after time. All of these things will be addressed for the quality of the people that he's putting into work. They're not political hacks. They're not others that are working for something else. They're ones that are dedicated to the Constitution and the building of America. So all of those things are absolutely necessary, and all of this information out there. But it's our responsibility as individuals to educate ourselves of everything and look beyond what is said. The things that are happening, for example, we read about all these things affecting our health. And I'm going to cover something that just been hidden for it was the lobbyists that got in and changed and paid these scientists at the various organizations to come up with these reports saying that this is good for your health and this is bad for your health. All of those things that have been coming out, and we found out that wasn't true, that wasn't true. The same thing at every level of government. So it's our responsibility to look behind the scenes, to do our own research, and find out what they're really saying.
Now, is that on this?
No, it's all part of
it. Yeah. Well, let me give you the number again. The number to call that's going to get you this free DVD on how the government has been trying to get rid of black babies under Mark Sanger and the Planned Parenthood organization, plus the first 100 days and contract with America, information on Donald Trump, all of these things, and will be free if you call us right now, 893-2444, 893-2444. Give us a call right now, and if no one answers the phone, just leave a message on the answering machine that you want the contract with America, and you want the video, Black Genocide, and we'll get that out to you right away. And also, we'll try to bring you up to date on this legislation that's being considered now in Washington between now and the first of the year.
But it's extremely important as individuals that we communicate.
Yes.
And if they do something good, you need to send them a thank you note. Just a thank you and God bless you for what you're doing.
Right.
And all of those things that will help those people, reinforce them and make them feel good about what they're doing and what the future will bring. It's extremely important that you communicate with them, and we all get involved with athletics and all the other things, but between the lines and what's going on behind the scenes, and it's particularly true not only in Washington but in Frankfurt.
Yes.
For the first time in almost 100 years, you've got control of the House, the Senate, and the governor's office, and unless we help those individuals and make the transition, and they'll be sworn in January again in the state of Kentucky, and the first session will begin at that point. That you communicate them what's important to you, what you think is necessary, and to thank them for their efforts and what they'll do in your behalf.
Right. Now, if you'll call in and give us your email address, we'll send you emails. We send out at least one a week on what's going on in Frankfurt, what's going on in Washington, and who to write, and the key points to push on to get things done in Frankfurt and Washington. Call that number, 893-2444. Call it right now. And if no one answers, just leave your name and phone number and address and your email address on the answering machine, and we'll get it right out to you.
And take a little time each day to inform yourself and become educated on your history, on the things that are government and the things that are important, and forget the media, which is always lined up on the other side completely.
Amazing.
The misinformation and the actual editing of comments that people make to make it come out completely different than what they really said. All of those things. So don't rely on that exclusively. Look for multiple sources and do that.
Right. In addition to this contract with America, here's another one. President-elect Trump and Pence are asking what is most important to you.
Exactly.
And it's talking about building the wall and replacing Obamacare and who do you want on the Supreme Court and this and that. This is all really important
These
too.
are extremely critical for not only your future, but the future of your children and grandchildren. Because if America should survive, both administrations, and both in the state of Kentucky and in Washington, are critical to whether that the future is going to be anything at all.
Well, and the thing about it is President-elect Trump and Vice President-elect Pence, they're asking for your what your priorities were. And here's another issue about the sanctuary cities where the certain cities are protecting criminals.
And the cost of all of these things that are forced onto the taxpayer, that's why the individual is making less money than they made 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The cost of that inflation has been creeping up to where the dollar's purchasing power is a fraction of what it once was.
Yes.
All of these things are in play, and we become somewhat conditioned to what's going on and accepting it, and not in a weird kind of way. But there was an old radio commentator, a singer that used to be on a Saturday morning show, and he made a comment at the end. Don't believe anything you hear and only half of what you see. So this is what's going on with the media and others. Do your own research. Find out what's really going on.
Absolutely.
And then communicate that to the elected officials to make sure they do the job, not only that you want to do, but for the interests of the country as a whole.
And one easy way to do that is get us your email address, and we'll give you an email about once a week on what's happening in Washington, what's happening in Frankfurt, and who are the important people to write to. So we're about running out of time, but call us right now, 893-2444. Together, we can do a lot. One or two people can't do very much at all, but if we all work together, we can do a lot. So call us right now, 893-2444, and I want to thank Ed Holloway, the state representative, that for being on the program and helping us find our way through all this quicksand. God bless you, and tune in again next week for the rest of the news.